Hi, I'm Zibby Owens, the creator and host of the award-winning podcast that you're listening to right now. Thank you so much, called Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. It is a daily podcast, 365 days a year, and each day we talk to an author about all of the things related to their career, their book, their life, and more in 30 minutes or less, because who has time? I am now an author myself, although I wasn't when I started this podcast, and you can get my new memoir, Bookends, a memoir of love, loss, and literature, wherever books are sold starting July 1st, and my children's book, Princess Charming. You can learn more about me at zibbyowens.com, but really you're here to learn more about the authors, and that is what we're going to do. Also, be sure to check out all the other podcasts in the Zcast Podcast Network. You can learn more at zcastnetwork.com and definitely check out those shows as well. Dolen Perkins-Valdez is the author of Take My Hand. She is the New York Times bestselling author of Wench and Balm and was a finalist for 2 NAACP Image Awards and the Hurston Wright Legacy Award for Fiction. She was awarded the first Novelist Award by the Black Caucus of the ALA. Welcome, Dolen. Thank you so much for coming on Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books to discuss Take My Hand, a novel.
Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. Okay, can you please tell listeners what Take My Hand is about?
So Take My Hand is inspired by the true story of the Relf sisters. They were 2 little girls who were sterilized without their family's permission at age 12 and 14 years old in 1973. My book takes the perspective of one of the nurses who worked at the clinic who was involved with the girls. They were her patients. Her name is Sybil Townsend in my book. And she quickly learns that the work that she's doing, she's trying to do good for her community, is very, very complicated and at times tragically harmful.
Well, I have to say, I listened to the first few chapters of this book before taking over and reading. And the accents and I felt like I was in this community in this time. Like the voice was so amazing. It was like kind of watching a movie kind of feeling to it. I don't know.
Yes, I thought the audiobook narrator, Lauren Daggett, did a fantastic job. She really nailed it. The accent and the inflections. I wish I could meet her and thank her. She did a fantastic job. And I'm hearing a lot of good feedback about the audiobook.
Especially when the 2 girls come in, or when she's saying, "What, you girls are so young, what are we doing?" And, 11 or 12, it's just, it's hard to believe all this stuff goes down and how it sort of slowly played out.
Yes, in real life, the Relf sisters were 12 and 14. I made my girls in my book 11 and 13, slightly younger, because I wanted to emphasize how vulnerable they were and that they were just children. 12 and 14 are children too, but I really wanted to further emphasize how young they were. And also in real life, the Relf sisters' mother was alive and well. In my book, the Williams sisters' mother is deceased because I again, wanted to emphasize their vulnerability, that they didn't have a mother around as an extra layer of protection.
Wow. So where did you always know this true story? Did you uncover it at some point? Did you know you wanted to write about it? Like, how did this come about and become a novel for you?
I knew a little bit about it because my dad graduated from Tuskegee in the late 1960s. I knew more about the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, which he told me about, but I didn't know a lot about this case. But I'd always felt this connection to Alabama because of his time spent there. About 7 years ago, I began to delve a little bit into it. I began to think, what really happened with those girls that I'd heard about in Alabama? And it's all over the internet, of course. So I just started to do some internet searching. And as I learned more, I realized that this was major national news. This was in every major newspaper. This was in news magazines. It was a major story at the time, but yet we're not taught about it in school. Many people don't know anything about the Relf sisters. Even people who are from Alabama. And I just began to feel the sense of urgency that I needed to let people know what happened and to make sure that something like this never happens again.
Of course, it's incredibly timely that your book is coming out now with all of the family planning stuff up in the air again with Roe v. Wade and all of that. How do you feel about sort of the confluence of these events?
Well, I tell people I started this book 7 years ago. I didn't plan this.
No, of course not. I wasn't insinuating that.
Yeah,
obviously.
no, I know you weren't. But
who could have known?
People have been asking me this question, and I say that to say I don't have any really ready answers to comment on what's going on right now, other than to say that I hope that this book adds to that conversation in some way. I think we're about to have some very, very painful conversations in this country. I was just listening to a podcast in my car on the underground abortion movement that's evolving, and it was just frightening to listen to be honest with you. And so I just hope that this book will add to that conversation by reminding us who will be the most affected by this ruling: poor women, women of color, disabled women. And I tried in the book to make sure that there was a connection drawn between what happened to those girls and what was happening in the larger reproductive rights conversation.
Well, I think all conversations related to this topic now are super important, right? And exposing all of this and the repercussions. And anyway, not to get political, but it needs to be discussed and, not buried. So you started, your first novel came out in 2010, right? Wench?
Yeah.
So tell me about getting started as a novelist and then what it's been like to continue producing consistently and working on books for the last, 12 years? Like, what did you always want to be a writer? Like, where did this all come from?
Well, I was always a reader, and I'm still a reader. That's my passion, is curling up with a book. But I didn't know any writers growing up. I didn't even know that it was a possibility. I'd never met a living writer. And I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I knew I was a strong reader and sort of just writer, like generally speaking, but I had never fathomed that it could be a career, that's something that I could actually make living at. When I got to college, I published my first short story in a little romance magazine. And I thought, wow, that felt really good. And I was paid for that short story. I think I was paid $130 or something. And that was a lot to me.
My first article I wrote when I was 14, it was published in 1996 or something when I was 16. Anyway, I got paid $150 and I was like, this is insane. I couldn't believe it. It was like I'd won the lottery.
Exactly that I could
get paid for my words, which just like came out of my head anyway.
That's right.
It was amazing.
It was. That was exactly the same. And this was, when I got published, this was like 96, 97.
Same time.
Right around the same time. Mm-hmm. And I was the same as you. I was like, I would have done that for free and they gave me money.
Yeah.
I still feel like that. I still feel like I would do this for free.
Now I am doing this a lot of time for free, by the way.
Like, it's true. And even when you are paid, right, if you were to work out the hourly wage, it would not be so good.
Yeah.
But
anyway.
Yes, I will say that I began to see it as a career in my early 20s. And that was, and actually I wrote like 3 unpublished manuscripts that were never published before I started Wench, which was the one that became published. So it took me about 10 years of just grinding and learning and reading and figuring out how to put a book together before I was able to, get a publishing contract.
And then what was it like? Well, tell listeners a little bit more about Wench and then and what it was like for you when that book came out and how it had and contrast that to now.
Well, I had the good fortune of working with a dream editor at that time. And I have actually had that experience throughout my career. I have worked with amazing editors. My current editor, Amanda Bergeron, is fantastic, brilliant, and so supportive. I love her. But I also had the privilege of working with Don Davis, who was my first editor. And my first book hit. It sold something like, it sold tens of thousands in hardcover.
Amazing.
And And we had a very modest marketing budget. I had a very modest advance, but it came out at the beginning of the social media moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were able to capitalize on some of those early social media word of mouth type of energies.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great to actually have people reading my work. That was really my dream, is that I would write something and that people would read it. I think one of the reasons that Wench caught on is because it was this excavated piece of history, much like Take My Hand, about this resort where slave owners vacationed with their enslaved mistresses. And it was a place that actually existed. And I became very curious about it when I discovered it while reading a biography of W.E.B. Du Bois. That resort eventually went on to become the first Black college in the country, the first HBCU, Wilberforce University. And those early students were the sons and daughters of these enslavers and their enslaved women. So I was fascinated by that. And I began to think, this might be actually a novel. I worried that my skills, because writing a book is so difficult, and I worried for a long time that my skills were not up to the task. And I still worry about that, frankly, of capturing what I thought was really, really important history. But I just plowed forward, and I ended up with a great editor. I ended up with a great publishing house, and the rest was history. I've had a lot of good fortune once the ball started rolling in my career. It took a long time for that ball to start rolling, but once it started rolling, I have been very, very fortunate.
That's amazing. And what are you already working on your next book?
I am, and I'm under contract for another book, but right now it's a bunch of pages that make no sense.
Great.
It's just, people say, do you have a manuscript? I'm like, I have pages. I wouldn't call it a manuscript.
I would argue a lot of authors would feel that the drafts of their novels could be described the same way.
Yeah, it's a lot of messy pages.
Well, speaking of the process and the messiness of it, tell me a little more about the way that you write, and sounds like not with outlines, perhaps, judging from that last statement, but I don't know. So
I do work with outlines.
Right, so
and that's because, before I published my first book, I had 3 unpublished manuscripts, and one of them was a 400-page monstrosity that I had not outlined. And when I got 400 pages into the manuscript, I realized it wasn't working and I needed to start over. And I did not have the ability to start over. And so that was when I moved on to something else. And so I learned my lesson that I do need an outline. And it's not a detailed sort of thing. It's just a rough sketch of scenes I need to write, and just a rough idea of where the book is going. But even so, as you're writing, things take different turns. And I probably should spend more time on outlining, because my outline gets rewritten several times. And when I say rewritten, I mean overhauled. But the very first thing I try to do so I'll start with my research. I'll start with thinking about what, I want my book to be about. And I get ideas. I went to the National Gallery of Art with my niece this weekend in DC, which is where I live. And I've had this idea ruminating about my next book. And I saw a piece of art there that was very much what I think my next book should be about. Not the one I'm working on now, but the next one. And I thought, this is a sign, the fact that I see this art, and this is exactly what I've been thinking about. So it takes me a long time to kind of settle into what I'm going to write about. And so for the next book, it's just percolating. But when I saw that art over the weekend, it just adds to it. So I start with, once I settle on my idea, I start researching, which involves a lot of newspapers, looking at maps, reading, other scholarly books to learn about the period. I listen to songs if there's music of the period. And then I start to outline. And usually when I outline, I take a weekend away. I'll either go to a hotel room. I need 3 days of complete isolation from my family, because I have 2 kids. And so usually, and my family has learned that's my outlining weekend that I need at the beginning of every project. And so usually it's 3 days of being in a hotel and ordering room service and just thinking it through. I have to do a lot of thinking through. And then after I have that outline, I feel a lot better. I come back into my world. And then typically I have tried to write in the morning, but with virtual schooling and then with the sort of upheaval of COVID, I have learned to be more flexible. Before COVID, I didn't write to music. I was always a silence person, but now I've learned to write with music and with interruption. And then the other thing that happened was I don't have these big blocks of time anymore. So now I just write in like 30-minute blocks here and there throughout the day. So I'll say, okay, I've got 30 minutes before, the cable guy arrives, and I'll just like go turn on my timer and write for 30 minutes. And at the end of the 30 minutes, the doorbell rings.
Wow, that's awesome. That's how I feel about reading. I feel like that's why, I have all this found time, like all these moments. Pockets. So much time wasted on our phones. I know this is
true.
Beating a dead horse, but it's true. Like, honestly, those are the times when you pull out your phone, pull something else out. Like, have the book in your bag and
we've also convinced ourselves that being our phone is work because we're doing our social media and we're doing our promoting and all stuff. And sometimes it is work, but sometimes it isn't.
That's true. It's a fine line. And so easily distracted from one app to another. And I'm always like, wait, why did I even pick this up? What am I even doing on here? But anyway, it's much easier to have an actual book. You know what you're doing with it. You just open it up and read it, Speaking of books, you said you love to read. What are you reading now? Or what are some of the books you've read lately?
I'll show you so I was just at a book event with Chris Bojalian.
Oh, I love him.
I love his new book, The Lioness. And I think he's a wonderful writer. He's a good friend to me. This weekend, I have not read this yet. It has been on my to-do list. I bought it when it came out.
Oh, that's good. Yep, I read that.
First week it came out in hardcover. I bought it and I never read it. The final revival of Opal and Nev.
I won't tell anyone.
Walton is up for this weekend.
Amazing. Well, I have podcasts with both of them if you want to do some background research before you dive in.
I like to listen after I read.
Yeah.
No,
I don't want to. Yeah.
I would, because after I read, I'm obsessed and I want to find out everything I can about the people.
Totally. So, I know there was one author.
And I stalk them online after I've read them. I have been known to email, I can get emails and find emails. I've been known to email writers at 2 a.m. after I finish their book and then and I've made friends that way, just writing them and saying it's 3 a.m. in the morning and I just finished your book. That was amazing. How did you do that? And so I know when people write me and say that, I always appreciate it because I know that feeling well.
Yes. I do that sometimes too. Not that often, but sometimes I'm like, I need to tell this author right now that I just finished it. And it's like we went through it together.
It is. It is. And you have, right?
Yeah.
You have.
They just don't know it.
They don't know it, but they knew when they published it that they were building a community around that story. And so, I love to write writers who move me.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay. Well, thank you so much. This has been so nice. I love the room service outlining method. I think that actually it would be really neat to partner with different hotels and do outlining weekends, with groups, writing retreats.
I have heard that before.
Oh, you have? Okay. Well,
yes, but nobody's ever done it. Nobody's ever done it. But there's so many ways I feel. And I know some bed and breakfast. There was one I had heard about in New Jersey that was doing writers' weekends.
Yep.
But there's still a need for that.
Yeah.
Because when I'm in a hotel, nobody in there is writing but me, and it just feels weird. But it's nice to have a community of everybody. And then when you take your break, you can come out and have your coffee together.
Yep.
And then you go back into your cave.
Or maybe there's a speaker or something.
Yep. We need that. Let's
do it.
And there's still needs also for parents, right? For writing retreats with childcare. There's still that need.
Interesting. I feel like I would not get anything done, but yes.
It would be hard, but if your kids were occupied all day, think about it.
That would be amazing. I know. If they literally
kind of summer camp,
if they know there is an access point to me though, even in the most giant, they will find it. Do you know what I mean? I need to be in another state to know that.
That's true. I understand. I understand.
Yeah. Well, if you want to plan it together, I love planning events. I'm gonna look into it. And I almost did a retreat.
Let me know.
Moms Don't Have Time to retreat with like 40 authors during COVID. And of course, it all came crashing down. And now I'm so burned from that I'm hesitant to schedule something else. But I feel like a writing retreat would be so easy because all you'd really have to do is just like fill up like a Hampton Inn with a bunch of writers and like go down for the free buffet every morning. And like, do you know what I mean?
And I would think there's a lot of bed and breakfast that would be open to that.
Yeah, but that's only like 6, like they're small. I'm
thinking
I want to get like 100 authors together or something.
Wow.
Like a big thing. Like we all, like everybody goes, you know?
There you go. Yeah, I think I like that idea, especially if you can get good rates and because the big thing is your meals.
Yeah. But if you do like a hotel take, I mean, the meals don't have to be that great if you have amazing company.
Where are you located?
I'm in New York.
There is a place, look it up. It's in Virginia.
Okay.
And it's called Airlie. Let me see if I got the spelling right. I think it's AIRLIE. Yeah, airlie.com.
AIRLEE. LIE. Okay.
And it's a retreat type place. It's owned by American University. That's why I know. And maybe we can give it. But the hotel rooms are gorgeous. And they've got like different little not cottages, but different little buildings around the property that have rooms, but they're all updated and pretty and gorgeous. And all the meals are included.
I'm going to look at this
nature
later
walks.
Today. Amazing.
It's horse country. People could do, there's activities. There's archery. It's one of those, it's a retreat type place, and it would be perfect for something like that. It's about an hour outside of DC.
Okay. So I think that could be really cool. I was going to do my event at the Ocean House in Rhode Island, which is like right on the ocean, and it was going to be gorgeous. I know.
Where is that in?
That's in Rhode Island.
Where in Rhode Island?
In Watch Hill. And they did give us great rates because the owner is an author herself. But
is that Rosalie O'Brien? No. That's a big place.
Yeah. Deborah Goodrich Royce.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. I had sold it out. I had sold out the whole retreat and another neighboring hotel that they owned.
Now there's another one that my old college roommate has in Rhode Island. It's also on the water. Rosalie O'Brien's place. Let me see what the name of her place is. Sure, I forget her married name now.
Well, I think this would be fun. Even like a cozy winter weekend. Like maybe
she's got a lot of rooms, and it's right on the water, and it's gorgeous.
I don't know. I want to do it again. People have been asking me to do another retreat, but this sounds much easier than organizing panels all the time, which is basically like a festival.
Yeah. But I love the idea of a place that has some charm rather than like a Hampton.
Yeah, You're right. You're right. I know. You're right.
And like where we all feel like we're in another destination. World.
Yeah. No,
you're
right.
I want to get away from this world.
I hear you. Okay. I think we should keep talking about it.
Make it happen. Let's talk.
Let's do it. I'm not kidding.
Okay. Well, thank you, Zibby.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too. Okay, bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Zibby Owens and at Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Also sign up for my newsletter at zibbyowens.com and sign up for my virtual book club and meet lots of authors on Zoom every other week. Thanks so much to Steve and Ryan at Texture Sound for the sound editing. And thank you to Morning Moon Productions for providing this fantastic intro and outro music.